So, Brian, you have been watching the situation unfold there. What do you make of the speed at which things have been going on in the ground there?
Well, for the Russians, they've been going very poorly in the north and a little better in the east and then fairly well in the south. But basically, it's a sign of a campaign that basically started with the wrong war plan, had no backup, and had the wrong supply chain set up to sustain it. So they've been very surprised and shocked, the Russians, by a campaign, by a resistance that is far more tenacious than they ever expected. They were really thinking Ukraine would cave in about 2 or 3 days. And when it didn't cave, it changed the whole nature of the war. They did not start with a shock and awe the way the Americans have in past wars. There was little shock and no awe from the Ukrainians for sure. Because they were expecting the Ukrainian government to give in, and they were expecting the command and control centers to order their people to surrender. Therefore, they didn't hammer them on the first day, and they're still functioning.
And to that point, Brian, I mean, Ukraine has a much more robust military capacity than I think a lot of outsiders would give them credit for. Can you explain that for us?
Yeah, we watch the maps. It looks like the Russians are advancing and being resisted by a kind of glob of nothing that's there, but they're running into these globs of resistance. In actual fact, Ukraine is one of the largest militaries in Europe. In fact, it's the second largest west of the Russian border. It has a professional, well-armed, in many areas, very well-trained military. It has really now under arms and uniform somewhere between 500,000 and 600,000. That could easily go up to 700,000 or 800,000. And, you know, we forget that Ukraine was just 10 years ago the fourth largest arms manufacturer, exporter in the world. It has 130 various factories that are turning out arms, quite apart from the arms they're getting from the outside world.
And so what is all that? I mean, you know, the manpower, the training, the weaponry, what does it all indicate to you about the possible course of the conflict?
Well, the problem for the Russians here is they've taken on a hornet's nest of powerful military response that has trained for 8 years now, exactly for this kind of invasion. They have excellent intelligence, which is so important in modern war. They have trained in their own backyard, just basically year after year after year. Their major cities are prepared to be turned into fortresses like small Stalingrads. And there's a huge country out there, the west of Ukraine, that is still very large. And they have many, many, many units with armor, tanks, anti-aircraft, missiles of every description, from shoulder fire to emplaced, and basically a lot of armor. But they've built their defense around these smaller territorial units, which are perfect for this war, firing shoulder-fired anti-tank or anti-aircraft missiles. They can move very freely. The officer corps is very well trained, up to the best standards of NATO. So Russia, no matter which way they look at it, has a horrible problem ahead, trying to reduce this large force in any kind of appreciable time. Well, outside, of course, the economic war is having a backbreaking effect on them in the economy.
Brian Stewart, former longtime foreign correspondent for CBC News. Wonderful to chat with you. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.